I don't wanna play no games. No, I don't wanna play no games. No, I don't wanna hear your promises. You do you and I'll do me. That's just the way it is.
Boom.
Thought I'd try a new entrance. I wanted to go. But you can tell by the way I bust your back with the bomb now. Boom, bang, with don't. I push it down for the bang for the camera now. Somebody down my valley. I should bang bang. I think I'm bang down by the way. I should bang day in fucking lane. I bet I should bang down big down. And I'm a name and I'm a name alive. Don't actually know the majority of the words. Obviously know the. Is it wake up in the morning and the day is dawn, or have I made that up in my head? But I know it's staying alive, staying alive. Hey, 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 hey. On with the video. I think we've done that for long enough. You know what time it is. Get that badger in and on and over here. We had to move back to get his greatness in. There ain't nobody down round here. We're on the up, we're on the in, we're on the over. Keep them subscriptions coming in, guys, if only for the BG's renditions. Quick ship vid. Everybody's new best mate, Thomas Frank, is now the next manager to fail at Tottenham. The next manager got to go from a stable club to a club with massive expectations and fail. So Thomas Frank is everybody's new best mate and the best manager in the world. And he will turn not necessarily to shit at Tottenham, but he will not be able to replicate what he did at Brentford. He's done an amazing job at Brentford. I'm interested to know what people think. I think there's far too many factors that get in the way of managers when they go to clubs like this. I think they find the home at places like Brentford. I'm hoping my man Facky Fucker is going to find his home at Leeds and do a grand old Duke of York job with Leeds United, keep us in the Prem. Then potentially we have to move on, similar to maybe not take as long as Thomas Frank has done to move on. I'm not suggesting that my man Facky Fucker will end up with a Tottenham job. However, do you believe that managers are potentially overrated on a job that they've done at one club? Because I've got to say, if I'm honest, I think there's a narrative that floats around quite a bit, like that Thomas Frank is like a beast, and he's been a beast at Brentford. And to be fair, I don't know much about him from before Brentford, but the proof will be in the pudding to see if he can actually go on and push to that next step. I think when you go get different players that don't necessarily believe in everything that you've done, don't really care that you were Brentford manager, don't really care that you were, solid in the Premier League for a while. When you're dealing with, Son seems like a decent enough character as Roy Keane would say, a decent enough character in the dressing room. But you know what I'm saying? It'll just be interesting to see what he does. I don't mind the bloke, to be fair. He speaks well and stuff, doesn't he? Potter rings a bell where Potter goes from obviously Brighton, really well run club, goes to Chelsea and absolutely collapses, doesn't he? So yeah, interested to know what everybody thinks. Which the reason why I'm bringing up Thomas Frank is he has spoke openly about Solomon and said that he likes what he sees and he would like to see him in training, and he does think he'll feature in the pre-season. They apparently want 20 million for Solomon. Now, I don't know whether or not, I don't know obviously what the policy will be with Daniel Levi with Thomas Frank, and whether they're moving players around to bring players in. Solomon might be one of the ones that are still chopped from the board, and out so they can get someone in. But, he's exceptional at ball and stuff as Solomon. So, and he was brilliant to watch last year. If he don't come back, he don't come back. I think Thomas Frank's been quoted to saying, you should never fall in love with a lone player, which I don't think any of us did particularly like fall head over heels, like, just desperately try to get him back in. But it would be a brilliant acquisition. And I do believe, he comes straight back into the side, doesn't he? And we just sort of take off from where we left off, as opposed to, you don't have to integrate him back into the side. You don't have to, he knows every single player that's there. It'll just, it'll be like going on holiday for a couple of months and coming back, as opposed to, trying to get someone in. But if you're getting players of good quality, they should just come in and do a job anyway, shouldn't they, really? But obviously, where the Prem is a different standard, as we all know, as we all keep getting told, this step up that we're not going to be able to deal with. Rio Ferdinand, there's been a plonker again, being a right good old reliable knobhead as he is. He's a weird guy, isn't he? Sometimes he speaks really well of us. I've seen him in interviews saying, like, Leeds United crowd amazing and stuff. He loved his time there. And then other times you see him just being an absolute ball bag in every single sense, with the Galatasaray stuff when he was in the barbers chanting or whatever. And he's just a dickhead, isn't he? And people disagree with this for some reason, but I don't care what anybody says. The bloke is thick as shit. his football ability and his playing brain is through the roof. But, you know, in most other areas, the bloke's a mongoloid. I really do believe that. He's been talking about that guacamole guy and Yakalokanis, saying that he needs to just get out of the club and sign for Man United. So he's saying I'd be causing the sporting president Frederico Varandas a nightmare to get out. I did that at Leeds. I heard Man United were interested in me and I knew Leeds had to go. Had to let me go, Ferdinand said. I went to Peter Ridsdale and said, listen, I know you need to sell me. Let's not haggle over a couple of million here or there. Get a deal done. I was waiting there for hours and he ended up getting the deal done. It's just like, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know who these people think they are, really. I think once the deal comes in, you know, as much as a knobhead and idiot Ridsdale was in the end, you know, I don't think he's anywhere near as brain dead as Rio Ferdinand, regardless of what you think of Ridsdale. So I know he brought the club to, you know, I don't think there's anybody I dislike more over the years at Leeds United, to be fair, than Peter Ridsdale for what he did. You know, it was absolute mongoloid, wasn't it? But in terms of, you know, sort of getting bullied by Rio Ferdinand, who can barely string a sentence together without contradicting himself moments later, I don't think he'll be in there like quivering in his boots and listening to Rio Ferdinand. I think he'll have been getting the best deal possible for his own pocket. I don't think he'll be worried about what Rio Ferdinand said. Well, what are your thoughts on Rio Ferdinand? I don't want to get into like a slagging match. Well, not with Rio Ferdinand because he's not going to be watching the video, but shit is as shit does. Bloke's a plonker. As we all know now by at this point, this Yaka be-all guy that keeps coming up, we apparently in advanced talks. There was some talks that we've already, last week, saying that we've already got agreed personal terms with them and it's down to the clubs. They're talking about 15, 16 million pounds. They wanted up to 20 million euros for him. I think it's a good start. I'm stuck in between thinking that the 49ers work in silence and that, or the 49ers are louder than Bonnie Blue in a proper session. So I don't really know whether they do work in silence anymore. We don't need to keep going back over the Slovenian 26-year-old big lad. So he is 6'3", hopefully decent from corners. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I do think it's a good acquisition. I've not seen anything of him, to be fair. I've never watched a full game of him. You know, it's not like I watch Udinese every week, so I'm not going to lie to you. But, you know, I would be up for competition with Pascal Struijk. Some people call him for. We need a replacement for Struijk. I think long-term we probably do, but I think that'd be interesting competition in there. And I wouldn't, as I've said before, put all his eggs in one basket and just assume he's going to come in and rip it up. Newcastle are apparently in late for him, but I doubt that to be true. Luckily, Everton are nowhere near it, but we're yet to talk about Everton because there is something coming up, as I'm sure the title will tell you. Firpo's all but gone. I need to stipulate something. I'll be glad when Firpo actually, you know, when it's signed, sealed, delivered, and he's gone. I said Firpo's time was legendary at Leeds the other week, and I got some pellets for it, and it went not the video clip, but it's gone around Twitter like saying people can't believe they've called him a legend. There's a difference between, I think people can call him a legend and then not put him in there with Billy Bremner. You know, saying legend don't really mean, you know, probably call somebody in pub a legend every day that I go in. I go, oh, he's a legend. Do you know what I mean? Don't literally mean he needs a statue outside. And I also think I have to stipulate saying his time at Leeds has been legendary is very different from calling him a legend. But Firpo, you're a legend, mate. Nice one. And if I met him, I'd call him a legend. Whether he's, you know, as legendary as Achilles and Hector, I'm not so sure. You know, maybe that duel that he had when he got rinsed a few times in Premier League, maybe that was his Hector, his kryptonite or whatever. Kryptonite. Leeds and Everton clanging around together. Kinnear, the ghost of Kinnear stays. Talking about Calvert Lewin, there's been some rumblings of Calvert Lewin and that Farker's interested in Calvert Lewin. The only thing I will say is, you know, all the strikers are starting to go around block now. We obviously had Josh Sargent talked about Beto and all the rest of them. Callum Wilson was spoke about. So we are starting to talk about strikers as well. I think we definitely need a striker, but Calvert Lewin's not the one for me. There were talks of Rodrigo Muniz from Fulham. So the strikers are starting to circulate, but Muniz will not be sold by Fulham. But I do think we're in a good place. You know, we need to get some business done, but obviously we need to reinvigorate within the window. And obviously people are waiting for July the 1st because it's believed that we're waiting on the PSR stuff to not trip herself over into the next season, into the next year of accounts. The fixtures are out soon, boys. I cannot wait. Please leave us a comment below who you want to play on the first game of the season. I don't really care who we play first game of the season. I would like to get one of the top sort of 6-7 clubs out at way, because I think it's a double whammy. You get them out at way, and if you play well, I think it sets you up quite well. Whereas if you get them 10 games in and you get them peppered a couple of times and you get battered to them, I think it's like shit, we're in for a long one. But if you get it done first game of the season, and like when we went up and played Liverpool 4-3 job, I don't think we'll replicate that. But that type of performance really sets you up for the league, doesn't it? I'm more interested whether you want it to be away or at home, and I'm really torn because obviously I'll be going to the home game, but I love watching the away games. So I think I'm more partial to an away game first day of the season, and then get stuck into Ellen Road week after when we've all settled in with 3 points. Get up! Let's have it, boys. Sun is shining. The weather is sweet. Take it easy, everybody. Stay complete with me, JackCity, you little lizardy.
I don't wanna play no games. No, I don't wanna play no games. No, I don't wanna hear your promises. You do you and I'll do me. That's just the way it is.
Boom.